Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Sorry for the long hiatus there. It's been a crazy couple months for me. We had a child, so it's taken up my personal life just a little bit. But we're back with the video. This one's a little bit different than the ones we have been doing. In this list, we are going to be giving our top 5 animated shows that we would like to see as live action, whether that be a live action show or a movie. It's a lot more imagination based than kind of the list we've been doing, where we kind of rank or give our thoughts on stuff that's already been put out there. Little disclaimer, the first half of this video, Emily is making some noise, so she kind of chimes in with her opinions throughout, and I kept it in there because it was pretty funny. With that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into the video.
Number 5, I kind of struggled on which one I wanted to put with this one. So I ultimately went with one that I think is in talks of being made into a live action currently, if it's still in production, and that's Gargoyles. I don't know if you watched it, Connor, but I know that I watched it a shit ton when I was little. I know whenever I was reading up on it a little bit that it was in talks that like Jordan Peele, I think, was like trying to put together a script. So I don't want to say too much about it because I'm anticipating that if it still does go through. But Gargoyles was just such a classic, which is such a cool concept. It definitely can border on horror-esque a little bit if it's done correctly, but has like that sci-fi action that I think would be best made into either like an HBO show or a movie for sure.
I remember watching that show, but I don't recall hardly anything about like the main plots or anything. I do know that it was kind of like, I think there were multiple factions. Obviously, like there was good ones, bad ones, that sort of thing, obviously. Right. But definitely a cool concept. I remember the big buff leader dude that had like the long hair. He was pretty cool. All right, that's a good one. I didn't even think of that one. But I think I have heard you say that before, but it just didn't register that would be one of your picks, maybe. My number 5 pick. This is kind of a cheat almost, but it is our list, so screw the rules.
That's against the rules, isn't it? Screw the rules. I have money.
Because there's technically been 2 live action movies made. However, I would like to see them do it with a bigger studio and really get it on the big screen. As the theme song states, he's got superpowers. He's no ordinary kid. He's Ben 10.
Ooh.
So there have been 2 live action movies, like I said, 2007 and 2009. They were Cartoon Network live action movies. And actually, they weren't that bad. I remember the acting being pretty okay, and the effects were pretty good too, actually. For being on Cartoon Network, I don't know how big the budget was or anything, but it did look pretty good for what it was. I just think it's such a cool concept. You could do it on a bigger screen as long as you got the right level quality of like kid acting for the main character, Ben Tennyson, obviously. Just a cool concept. He just has this watch, and it's just the DNA of every single alien race in the known universe. He can just turn into any one of them at any time. Any combination of them as well, technically, if you want to get technical about it. I always remember there was this funny argument. People are like, he could beat Superman or Goku because they're both aliens. He could beat both of them because he could just become a combination of them. Technically, if he had their DNA.
Technically, yeah.
I mean, like, he's just technically all-powerful. Yeah, and just a banger of a theme song, too. So I just think that you could take that to a little bit higher level. Obviously, it would still be geared toward kids, probably. I don't think there's any way you make that concept rated R by any means. I think it'd be like a good Marvel type of movie where it's like PG-13. You have some kind of serious or darker moments, but,
Yeah, I gotta be honest, I didn't even think about that one. Like I was like going through the list of like ones I could possibly do. I definitely didn't think about that one because, I didn't really watch the show too much whenever it did come out. I watched like clips and stuff here and there, and it always did prove interesting to me. All right, cool. So for my number 4 spot, this one is one that was already made into a live action, actually, and I was not pleased with it. And that would be Avatar: The Last Airbender. This is another one. I was a fan of this show too, and then when it was talked about being made, when I saw who was on the helm, I was like, oh, sweet. I'm a huge fan of M. Night Shyamalan. I was like, fantastic. That'd be a great director for it. Then it turned out to be complete dog shit. I really don't know what it was that I could pinpoint down, other than it just didn't feel like the soul of the movie. Aang didn't feel like him. None of these characters felt, I don't know, it didn't feel like the show that I watched when I was a kid. It didn't feel like it had the heart and soul, the character development. It didn't feel like it had anything. It felt like very, very rushed. Even him, Aang, just felt like he was just kind of already thrust into like the powerful position right off the bat without having already developed it and learned from these characters. Like he was already so much further than them in the movie, and that just didn't feel right either. I think a lot of the CGI was kind of dog shit. I know they did some like slow-mo stuff they were trying to do and some cool effect, and ultimately that just did not work. I've talked to some people about this too. I know some people think it's just better off left as an anime, which I disagree. I think it could be made into a live action if it was given, the proper hands to be dealt with, and I thought M. Night Shyamalan would have been, but that on top of just taking the time with it, I think it really could at least be made into maybe even a 2-3 part movie, something where you have over time you could make character development and just have something to build off of and not just try to rush it into one single movie that ended up just being kind of thrown into it. Like I didn't even realize it was coming out. It was just kind of thrown out there.
The kid that played Aang, or Ong as they called him in the movie, which that pissed me off too, because it was just M. Night Shyamalan was like, that's how the traditional Asian pronunciation would be. And I'm like, yeah, but that's not what it was in the show.
That's not what it was. Yeah.
And also, yeah, it is very inspired by Asian cultures, don't get me wrong. But the fact that his name is Aang in the show, that it's a made up place and a made up people in an animated show. It has no basis in real life pronunciation. I mean, there's a lot of weird names in there, and I'm sure they're not all real Asian names, you know what I mean? So I don't know. So that was kind of a misstep, because I feel like the kid, it was like not bad, but it wasn't good either, because I think they wanted him to have a martial arts background, and I feel like because he did know martial arts, so they kind of focused on more of his physical ability than his acting ability, which is kind of like having a stuntman do like the leading role. Like it was like some of the dialogue too didn't help. And the other thing that was really dumb was like they kind of deviated from the story a little bit. The firebenders, they changed so much.
Yeah.
Because they made them, you have to have fire that's already existing to use your powers, which is a huge nerf to the firebenders, because that just makes them like so weak. Like they're supposed to be this overwhelming force that has taken over all the other nations in this giant war, and they can't use it unless they carry around torches everywhere. It doesn't make much sense. They also made the earthbenders look incredibly weak in that movie. Like they had like one scene where they did stuff, and I remember it took like 10 of them to do, like, they did like a 20-step bending move and just basically raised a rock and threw it at someone. Yeah. And I was like, that's too much effort to look so weak.
It just didn't feel like it had what the show had. It was just like this misstep, like the RC Cola, the beautiful Coca-Cola show that was Avatar: The Last Airbender.
They just misstepped in some areas. So I think that one could be redone a lot better. If they just had somebody else do it, it would have been fine. Are you talking over there? That's a good pick. I feel like that one could... so she keeps just goo and gone just right in the middle of it.
Perfect. Has to be thrown in there.
Kind of like what I said with Ben 10. I mean, it's been done, but it could be done way better. Mm-hmm. My number 4 pick, Digimon, Digital Monsters.
Oh,
I think you could do that in a very almost realistic premise. In the show, it's the kids get actually sucked into the digital world. They get digitized. You could do that. That's not I mean, there's been movies and film involving augmented reality, virtual reality, that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. It wouldn't be that much further of a step to say that you got digitized and sucked into a digital world. I don't think that'd be too far. I'll just say this about my entire list too, and I'm sure the ones you've mentioned so far had really good openings. Like yours have actually been a little bit more serious and dramatized, and mine have been a little bit more, I don't want to say superhero-y, but like a little bit more upbeat. But like Gargoyles was super dark, and Avatar had a lot of adult themes in it. Mine's just about a kid with a watch that turns him into aliens and and Digimon.
We definitely have a theme for both of us. That's what.
But what I was gonna say is like for my whole list, like I think every opening theme or like theme song is just a banger, and yours that you've mentioned so far have really good openings and themes to them too. So. I think that's got a good thing going for it too. If you somehow find a way to get the theme song into the movie,
it has to.
It's just such a great nod, and if you do it right, it doesn't come off as cringy or cheesy at all. Detective Pikachu, they had Ryan Reynolds as Pikachu, like sad singing the Pokemon theme. Like that's a good way to do that. That wasn't cringy. That was actually like funny. Or when the Power Rangers movie, when they
Power
had the
Rangers
theme,
did it,
when they were running with the Zords and everything, like that.
Oh, God.
That was epic. Digimon movie, you could just have be like, "You ready, Agumon?" And he'll be like, "Yeah, Ty." And he'll be like, "Agumon, Digivolve too." And then it'll be like, "Greymon, Rob." And then you just do that, Digimon, like that.
That'd be incredible.
Yeah, like I think you could do that, and it would be cool. So yeah, what do you got for your number 3 spot?
So my number 3 is I promise that this is the last like super dark one I got, but this one I was like I just have a good feeling that this could be such a good movie, at least a beautiful looking one, if that even. But Samurai Jack was it was so badass when I was young. It was like I felt like when I watched it, I was watching like something adult, right? Because it didn't feel like a typical kid show at all. It was very dark. He's like a loner, so it's like very beautiful setting. He's out by himself. It just kind of hit a little bit differently when I was little. I was like, oh shit, like this is something deep. And for some reason, it grasped my interest then. I always wanted it to be made into some live action. If anybody could do it, it would be the director George Miller, who, if you know, he did the Mad Max movies. Because if you give like that kind of dystopian kind of feel, and for someone who knows that kind of universe and that feel of stuff, I guarantee he could make a good Samurai Jack movie if he was a fan or was given the correct material and actually did his research on it and watched it. I think it could be made into that kind of story. It was definitely a show that kind of hit that middle ground between kids and adults, kind of like a darker Last Airbender for sure.
I don't really remember too much of the main plot. I know it was the Aku. I think it was some sort of demon or entity.
Yeah,
He destroyed his village and sent him through time.
If somebody can make this live action, even Primal, I'll throw that one in there too. Primal, it's the same, essentially the same stuff. But if someone were to make that in the right hands, it would be a classic immediately.
Maybe it's a good bit of evidence that it maybe can't be done for some of these examples we've given so far that have been made into live action.
True, too.
Maybe it's just you can't capture that emotion or that type of feeling that you get because it will be live action and it's not like a kid's show that has like adult themes in it or something like that.
Sucks to say, some of them might be the case where you just can't do it, and that is pretty upsetting.
Right. All right, so moving on to my number 3 pick. Bear with me here. I'm going to do pretty much the entire intro narration. So, sugar, spice, and everything nice. These were the ingredients chosen to create the perfect little girls. But Professor Utonium accidentally added an extra ingredient to the concoction, Chemical X. Thus, the Powerpuff Girls were born. Using their ultra super powers, Blossom, Bubbles, and Buttercup have dedicated their lives to fighting crime and the forces of evil. Do, 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 do.
The whole thing, fantastic.
Don't cringe too hard, but yeah, I think I think if you made this movie into live action and didn't adapt the crazy size of their eyes, like in the show, like their eyes, I don't know if you remember, they take up like the majority of their face. So I wouldn't do that. I would not do that at all. I would have them just be normal looking girls. I mean, they're called the Powerpuff Girls, so it doesn't really do much for feminism, but they are little girls, so I do think it kind of makes sense still. But they're super badass, and I just remember the show was actually very violent for being a cartoon. It showed actual blood, like teeth getting knocked out, like the whole 9 yards. The villains were insane, just weird insane, but like also pretty good. Mojo Jojo is obviously the most popular or well-known one, I'm guessing. But then you also have like Fuzzy Lumpkin, who is just like this like big Bigfoot hillbilly looking guy with overalls and like antenna on his head. Or him, who's like this cross-dressing devil-looking person with lobster claws. The Gangrene Gang, the Amoeba Boys, like just so many crazy off-the-wall people. And then they had like giant monsters, like generic ones and stuff too. I do remember there being a very racist villain called the Salami Swami. It was awful. He played like a clarinet, and like salami links like came out of a basket like a cobra. I wouldn't adapt him into a movie at all, but
no.
I do think you can make some cool things happen with that, especially if you found good kid actors to play the parts. I think it could be really cool.
That is the fear with any of these, is that like who knows if they could be good live action, because with a lot of kids you're gonna have to find like perfect like it style kid actors, some like just good actors. Otherwise it's gonna immediately be cheesy. I think these would have to appease to us too. It's so hard to get that done, but this is one that I was considering putting on my list too.
If you look past the fact, too, now that I'm older, I kind of question why the professor was trying to make girls out of nothing. It was more so because he wanted kids and he didn't ever find a wife. But he was like, for a cartoon, he was decently attractive looking and fairly young. I don't know what the problem was.
There's some weird shit there.
The little mayor, oh man, if they could just find if Danny DeVito could just be like the mayor or something. Like just a little tiny thing, and then just have his assistant, the secretary that was super hot, but they never showed her head because she was so much taller than the mayor. I think if you did that somehow in real life, where you did almost like from Home Improvement, like a Wilson sort of thing, where you never showed anything above or you just showed just above his chin or the top half of his face, something like that throughout the movie. Just like find ways to keep her head hidden would be so funny.
Then what do you do? Do you go down to the young kid version of it, or do you go a little bit older with him?
They did that pretty well with like the movies that have worked. I feel like are the ones that played at both ends of the spectrum. You know what I mean? Like the fans of the original, but also make it relatable to newer viewers as well. So I think the Detective Pikachu did a really good job of that, where like they have like adult jokes in there and it's PG-13 and all that kind of stuff for people who've been playing the games and watching the anime for that long. But then it's Pokemon and kids love Pokemon just because it's Pokemon. They know Pikachu, so like that's relatable. Power Rangers did that pretty good. I feel like in this newest movie they did some adult jokes and themes and stuff. Made them not so much goody two shoes, like they're in detention for the summer, so but then it's Power Rangers. You put the theme song in there. They have the Zords. It's all toy marketing still for the kids too. So I think you just make it PG-13, and obviously they're little girls, so you can't really do too many necessarily adult jokes with them. But like if you make the fight scenes fairly violent, it basically you just kind of try to appeal to the broad spectrum. And let's move on to your number 2 then.
So my number 2, one that I would just love, and I think actually when I was reading about it yesterday, they're actually considering doing an HBO show on it, I think, and that's Batman Beyond. So Batman Beyond, from what I read, they're trying to do a whole HBO kind of series on it, at least a limited series, with Michael Keaton supposed to be coming back as older Bruce Wayne. And so that just sounds fantastic to me, because the whole Batman Beyond storyline to me is amazing. Now you have an old Bruce Wayne who's kind of teaching McGinnis, I think is the kid's name, as his new protege. And honestly, I think that Batman outfit is probably the coolest one. One of the most recognizable kind of like, I call it the DLC Batman skin. For people that know the basic Batman outfit that they got, I think that one's probably the most recognizable to anybody. But yeah, no, I think Batman Beyond takes it to a different level, especially with HBO doing it, live action. I think they have so much potential to kind of bring out an older Joker, do like a whole resurrected Joker storyline that they had for it. But I really think that there could be potential to kind of bring a futuristic style of the Batman. I just think a dark, nitty-gritty, noir style Batman would be something that would definitely benefit.
I do remember watching that show a little bit. It's kind of cool to see a different take on Batman. There have been other iterations of him, obviously, with the Bruce Wayne Batman, just throughout all the movies and shows that have been around. Like, his costume changes, but it kind of generally looks the same for the most part. Mm-hmm. Dark colors, bat symbol in the middle of the chest, cowl, and a cape. Whereas this one is more like functional, just I don't want to say jumpsuit, but it's just like a one-piece suit. He's still got a utility belt, and he has like a jetpack or something with wings that do retract and stuff. So it's just a little bit more for function instead of aesthetic, like the original Batman suit is, I feel like, because the cape honestly doesn't do anything for him other than he kind of uses it to glide a little bit. Yeah. As we saw in The Incredibles, capes are just bad news sometimes. Yep. So I think it'd be sick if you have Danny DeVito come back and play Old Penguin.
God, that'd be fucking
Or have fucking Jim Carrey come back in that crazy ass onesie for the Riddler. Dude, that is the funniest costume I've ever seen in a movie. It's just Riddler, you could just see his bulge, and he just doesn't care. It's just Jim Carrey.
I never thought I'd see Jim Carrey bulge.
I mean, if you think about it, throughout all those Batman movies, it's like big name actors playing these villains, and they're just like, some of their outfits just look super cheesy. But
like Tommy Lee Jones is Two-Face.
Yeah. Jack Nicholson did a good Joker. Michelle Pfeiffer is probably the best Catwoman that's been around. Yep. I guess we'll move on to my number 2 now. I'll see if you can guess this one. I don't know how much you know about this one, but I'm going to kind of give you one of the lines from the show. Form feet and legs, form arms and body, and I'll form the head.
Oh god dang it!
Any
Voltron.
guesses?
Voltron. My man.
Voltron.
Absolutely.
So 5 mini lion bots come together to make one super lion bot, as Deadpool states. It's a really old, like an 80s show, I do believe.
80s.
If not older. I'm pretty sure 80s, though. I remember watching reruns of the old show when I was little. It would be on, like, Boomerang or Cartoon Network or something. They would show reruns of it, and I just thought it was really cool. But recently, actually, there was a series on Netflix in 2016 it came out. It was like 2016 to 2018 it ran. And it was DreamWorks did Voltron, like a reboot of it almost. And it was fantastic. It was like 8 seasons, and I just binged it over the course of like a couple weeks. I feel like maybe a month. I just binge watched it, and it was just so great. So many good voice actors in there. Nolan North was in there. I think we talked about him in a couple of these videos. Reese Darby, pretty sure he's a Australian comedian. He might be in New Zealand. Just a super funny voice, but yeah, he's in that show. He does funny stuff with his character in that show. Very adult. Had a lot of good fight scenes, violence, obviously. They made one of the characters in the original show, Pidge, was like very hard to tell if it was a boy or a girl, and they never really told you explicitly.
Like that green one.
Yes, but in this show, they actually did make her a girl and like came out and said it outright, and I thought that was cool, to adding another girl to it. And then Princess Allura does end up piloting one of the lions as well, so better female involvement in the show too. And then it deals with like racism and like all like just a bunch of good adult themes. And I think it did it really well. So I was impressed with it. And I do have the figures from that version of the show. I bought all the lions, so I have those on my shelf in my room. I would love to see a serious take on it. If Transformers has shown us anything, you could make really cool looking like robots and transformation scenes like that. Like Transformers did that so well. I was mind blown when the first Transformers came out, how good the effects were. Even the little tiniest bits that were transforming and moving on their bodies was like so great. I think you could just do a lot with that.
Yeah, I think out of the entire list, this is probably, if not the second best one that could be made, I think could be have the most potential. And
you could more easily adapt it into a live action.
I don't think the show itself is really cheesy. So it's like it's not like trying to transition cheesy over to something live action. You know, for instance, like you could take Powerpuff Girls and make that shit cheesy as fuck because the show itself is kind of cheesy. This one deals on a lot of serious stuff. I think it's really, really, really cool.
Do you have any honorable mentions before we get to the number one?
Yeah, I was going through and I had a couple honorable mentions. One, I don't know if you thought about this one at all. This one's an odd choice, but either Courage the Cowardly Dog or Dexter's Laboratory.
Dude, I shit you not. Yesterday, before we started recording yesterday, because we had to do this in 2 sessions, I legit thought of both of those, and I was like, I don't know if you're going to find a little kid that could do Dexter's voice very well.
I don't think...
Yeah, I did think of both of those, actually, because those were like 2 of my favorite shows growing up also. So Courage the Cowardly Dog was amazing.
That one's hard, because that one, I don't know how they would make a live action. I guess they could just do it and just own up to it. Like, hey, know what it is. Don't try to make anything what it is. Actually have a fucking dog. Let it talk so we can hear it. But make it very dark horror, because that shit scared the fuck out of me when I was little.
Oh yeah, there were like legit scary moments in that show.
Yeah,
creepy stuff. Absolutely, for sure.
I think the first episode where he's fighting that shadow, he's like seeing shadowed images of this like thing killing Eustace and Muriel in several different ways. Yeah, and he's just like all you see is the shadow of it. He's just trying to terrify him. But you'll see her get like chopped up, all this different stuff. Like Jesus Christ, for like a kid show, I was so surprised all the stuff they showed.
Yeah,
that's probably my 2. I thought.
And Dexter's Lab was probably out of all the ones we mentioned, and that's probably why it is an honorable mention. I think that would be very hard to do. You could probably do it. All you have to do is get, what is his accent?
I really don't know.
DD, get out of my laboratory. It's hard to explain, actually.
Like French?
Maybe, yeah, I guess, kind of. So, yeah, Courage the Cowardly Dog was a good thought. I had that, too. Mine would be, I have 2 of them as well that I could think of off the top of my head. I would do YuGiOh. Everybody who doesn't watch the show or didn't watch the show as much as I did, probably stay into it as long, would probably be like, what are you talking about? No one would ever be able to take a movie where people play card games for the stake of their soul. or take it that seriously, like the world's not going to end because of a card game. But if you know the lore of the show, and especially if you watch the Japanese anime and not the 4Kids like dubbed version, where the Shadow Realm is actually an American invention. In the Japanese dub, they literally just go to hell.
That bastard! I can't forgive him. Not after he sent my grandpa to the Shadow Realm.
The what realm?
You know, the Shadow Realm. The big, purpley, cloudy place that you go to when something really bad happens to you.
I think you're talking about hell.
No, it's the Shadow Realm. You know, whenever people fall from a really tall building or they get stabbed in the chest, they go straight to the Shadow Realm. What, you guys don't have the Shadow Realm in the future?
I don't think that's a real thing.
So wait, is my grandpa really dead?
Afraid so, bros.
The Shadow Realm is nothing. But if you know the lore of the show, I think it'd be kind of, some things might be cringy, but I think you could probably do it in a way, especially with, I mean, hologram technology it's coming out now, or you could do a VR augmented reality sort of thing. But then also, my other one would be Static Shock.
Ooh.
Honestly, I think he deserves a movie. Well, for one, DC barely has scratched the surface of the characters that they can come out with movies for. Yeah. The only real black character that I can think of that they've put out there on the big screen anyway is Cyborg, and he was just in the Justice League movie, so he's not gotten anything on his own. But I think Static Shock he's one of my favorite characters, and I love that show. I think we're finally ready to move on to the number one.
Number one.
This has gotten to be such a long discussion, but I love it because it's like, it's all just imagination. The other lists we've done were like favorite movies, favorite shows, or whatever. That's stuff that's already been done. This is kind of like what we can come up creatively that we think would be really awesome. So I'm excited to hear your number one. Actually, I think it might be the same as my number one. We kind of talked back.
I absolutely think it is.
6 months ago or so when we were starting all these videos, I had mentioned that I wanted to do this video, and I was like, I have this great idea. I can't wait. Would totally do the video to tell you.
Yeah.
So let's say it at the same time, and if it's different, then I'll cut it. But if it's the same, we'll leave it in. All right.
Okay.
All right. Cool. So on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Danny Phantom. Nice.
That dude, I'm telling you, this man, it's just how, I don't know how, if this list gets put together.
What did he say? You have to, don't do it.
I guarantee other people have thought of this. This could be something fucking great. This is a character too that I'd be like, it's so rough for me to say like that. I think Tom Holland needs to play damn near every one of these characters because I could just see Tom Holland doing it, or like a Grant Gustin type. I know they kind of did like some fan made edit. They put on a photo of Grant Gustin in his Flash costume from the show and just edited it to look like the Danny Phantom costume. It looks so good. The fact that they haven't made something out of this yet, or I don't even think there's even talks about it, is just shocking to me.
He's just such a cool superhero idea. I can't really think of really any other superhero that has his specific backstory instead of powers. You know, obviously you got people that can phase through walls or fly or whatever, but nobody really has, that I can think of anyway, ghost powers. Or like can turn into a ghost sort of thing.
I like the traditional ghost, no.
Correct. This is actual dead people ghost. Like there's a whole, they call it the ghost zone. Probably the afterlife or some sort of purgatory though, where these souls are that the ghosts that he captures and gets his powers from. This it's called the ghost zone. I just think it's so cool. Just he can do so many things, which is good that you have a wide variety of abilities. But then it's also, he get that aspect of like he's a teenager trying to have a normal high school life. He's got a very Spider-Man-like thing going on where he's like trying to keep up with school. He has a crush on this girl. He has this some good friends that he hangs out with, 2 best friends, and he's trying to do all the superhero stuff and be in school and do all this kind of stuff at the same time. And actually it's cool because the friends know about him being a superhero kind of like right off the bat. So it's not like he's trying to hide it from them. They're actually helping him hide it from other people most of the time and helping him with his quests and stuff. So that's really cool. When he says he's going ghost and then just transforms, I think it's just the coolest thing. I think you could have such a badass movie where he suits up doing that. He just says, I'm going ghost, and then just you have those 2 rings pop out and transform him into his suit. I think that you could just do such a badass scene with that. That's what I just keep thinking of. And then you have that badass theme song. You find a way to put that in the trailer or something. That would be the most hyped trailer that ever came out.
I hope this gets made. I know there's a little bit of talks. They've talked about it, but nothing ever confirmed, obviously. But I hope this gets made. This is a unique superhero, essentially. Not like we said, nothing like any live action we've had. So it's super fucking cool. I would love to see this.
I would do a trilogy for sure. It's almost like one of those things you just want to write a letter to like a studio and just be like, hey, I don't want any money. I just, just make this and make it good. And you don't have to like, it's not my idea. A bunch of people want to do it, but just do it.
Like Anthony and Joe Russo, guys, please help us out. Just make a trilogy. You don't need to do anything else. Just make this, please.
And there you have it, folks. That is our top 5 shows that we want to see made into live action. We had a lot of fun making this one. As we said, it's a little bit more imagination based. Really able to kind of let our creativity show here. I hope you guys enjoyed. We're going to try to be as consistent as we can moving forward. With the kid now, it's kind of hard to find the free time to do this, all while also working full time. At the end of the day, this is a hobby. It's not like we're doing it for money. But we do appreciate the continued support from you guys, and we just enjoy making these videos for fun. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next one.